Good afternoon, everybody. We'll get started now. It's right on 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I hope everyone can hear me well through their audio or through their laptops or computers. I'll just make a quick note that today's webinar, Making Friends, is being recorded. So this is why you might be able to hear it through your computer just by clicking on the microphone down the bottom here. Just below your typing your message here, there's a little microphone icon there. If you want to be hearing through the computer, you can just click that red X off. But we do encourage you that just keep the dialing in information on hand, just in case your internet or computer does have some buffering issues throughout the webinar. Okay, so welcome to the webinar. My name is Renee Christie. I will be one of your co-facilitators today. I work as the team leader for New South Wales for Positive Partnerships, and my co-facilitator today is Rachel Dillon, who will come in about halfway through the webinar. And Rachel is the team leader of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander programs for Positive Partnerships. And you will see there our moderators, Chris Champion, National Coordinator for Projects and Innovation, and Linda Hunt, whose details were up earlier and who would have been in communication with you. So if you do have any technical issues, just contact those moderators. But we welcome you all to the webinar today. And I would like to ask in what capacity everyone here on the list is attending the webinar. So I'd just like to ask Rachel to start a poll, and we're just going to ask everybody to click as to where they're calling in from today. Not where who they're calling, in what capacity they're calling in from today. So you'll see a poll come up, and we just like to do this to recognise that we do have this webinar open to a range of different people. So I can see there that mostly we have either parents, school staff members, or other professionals in the field. So that's quite a broad match between the three there. So thank you. Oh, and a couple from sector. There we go. All right. Thank you, everyone, for clicking on those results there. So we'll just remove that poll and moving on to the next slide, which will just give a brief overview of the webinar tool. So some of you might be new here to the webinar platform. Some of you may have already been part of our webinars, so you'll know the tools well. So as you can see to your left there, this is where your name appears. And down the bottom in the text box, this is where we will encourage people to type their comments and questions in the text box there. And we might also ask at this point, just to be mindful that this is a short hour-long webinar, and we do have quite a few number of people here. So we hope to be able to answer many of the questions that we have, but just to keep in mind that Positive Partnerships as a model doesn't come from an expert model, and we rather hope that through our facilitation of this webinar, participants of the webinar can use the tools and ideas generated and apply them to your own individual circumstances. And just to let you know that all the slides here today and all of the resources we speak about or links that we share will be emailed out to everybody following the webinar. So please just take your time to take out the most of this hour webinar, and bear in mind that you will receive everything following the webinar. So now a little bit more, we're going to ask about yourself. So another poll that we like to gauge another idea of our mix of participants today. We're going to ask where you're calling in from today across the country, which state or territory. And we'll also ask at this point in time that if you are sitting around a computer with a group of people, if you wouldn't mind just typing into the text box how many people are sitting around your computer, just so that we can get a bit more of an idea of how many people exactly are listening in. Oh yeah, see, we've already got Annette there. She's got 5 people around her. Thanks, Annette. And based on our results here, we've got quite a good mix from across the country as well. So hope to share lots of ideas and welcome everybody. So our session intentions today in the Making Friends webinar is to focus on looking at how the characteristics of autism may have direct impacts on the individual's ability to make but also maintain friendships. A young person on the autism spectrum may have very different understanding of making friends, and we will discuss how the need to have friends varies from person to person. There are strategies, programs and resources that we will also share to support young people on the spectrum to learn about friendship, to also develop the skills to make and maintain friends, and support instances of bullying in schools and community. We will also particularly focus on the importance of working together with your school to ensure that everyone understands the unique impacts of autism on the individual. And our intention today is to raise thought and discussion around understanding these complexities and what can support individuals. We hope that you will feel safe talking about your current concerns and acknowledge that all of us here today come from different experiences, but sometimes also some similar concerns will arise. So please feel free to share your strategies and ideas in an open and respectful manner. And we will hope that if you leave today with just one idea, then we will have achieved what we intended. Just remember to keep your knowledge of the individual at the forefront of your mind. So to begin, and before we can explore helping our young people on the spectrum to make friends, we need to have a good understanding of what friends are. And this is going to be different for each person in the group, but there will be some common themes. So I'd like us to start by identifying what are the qualities and skills of good friends and discuss the different levels of friends. So first of all, what are the qualities of a good friend? And we'll ask you to use the text box here, and thinking about the qualities of friendship, comment using either a word or a phrase. Shared interests. I see we've got a couple of people typing there. Trust is always a big one that comes up. Someone you can trust and who won't judge you. And being trustworthy as well and willing to share that trust with your friend is a big quality. Wow, we've got lots coming through now. Support, honesty, kindness. We've got loyalty come up a couple of times. And listening is always a big one too, because we all know that the impact that being there to listen can have. Having a laugh with, yes, someone who makes you smile. That's something that often comes up as well. So we can see that there's lots of really great qualities there. Acceptance is a big one too. Thanks, Karen. Yeah, lots of great qualities. Thank you for sharing all of those, everybody. Because what we can see in friendship is that there's so many great qualities to friendships, and we also need to consider what the different levels of friendship might be. And so, for example, we're not all going to have best friends, but we have friends and acquaintances that are at different levels and in our different social settings. So it could be your work friendship group or the various clubs or the family dynamics that you have. And we look at how we move in different circles of friendship too. And this is lifelong, and as we get older, it continues to be this process of moving between circles of friends. And we develop friends through many and varied life experiences. So keeping this in mind for a young person on the autism spectrum who's already struggling with understanding the complexity of what is a friend, these levels on top of all of this can be quite confusing. So true, Rachel. Thanks for sharing that. And we also like to pose this question, how many friends do I need? And for people on the spectrum, friendship can look really different depending on the individual. So you might see a young person on the spectrum appearing to have no friends, or there might be the instance of having just one good friend. And often this is something that is described. But then we can see that other individuals on the spectrum could have a number of acquaintances, both in the school setting and in the community. But then there could be another direction where they name the person sitting next to them at that time their friend. So it just really depends on that understanding and remembering that, as we discussed on the previous slide, often friendship is viewed through the eyes of us, of our family or our teachers, and what we define as friendship. So when we look at our own close friendships and how complex that can be, it really hits home with the reality of this. So I'll ask you, just in the text box, considering those examples I gave, how do you see the young person you support, or your young person, sitting in this broad range of how many friends? Please comment in the text box about this, and just be mindful that there are no right or wrong answers to this. As discussed, it can be incredibly individual and unique to the person. So we have a couple of people typing. Do people support their young person who typically has just one friend? My child wants just one person like him. Yeah. So thank you, MM. That is, yeah. It can be hard, and like we said, with our understanding of friendship and how it transfers between different people and their understanding. Exactly, and Andrew, you've got your daughter who's very sociable, and you know, really seeks out those friendships. But sometimes it can be a challenge in the characteristic that understanding those hidden cues in making and maintaining friendships can be challenging. The concept and understanding of friendships is definitely a big one, and that's often a place where we don't think to start is learning about what a friend is and what friendship means. Yeah, well, we've got comments coming through quickly, but just there, anyone I meet on the playground is a friend. So we can again see that there's a lot of these layering of the different understandings of friendships there. So thank you everyone for commenting there. We'll be moving on to understanding, looking a bit deeper into the diversity of autism, looking at how the characteristics across the autism spectrum can really influence socializing and instances of vulnerability or isolation in individuals on the spectrum. So we now will discuss these and see how these characteristics in themselves impact. And you may like to comment in the box as we talk through these about, yes, you know, if you find that that's something that resonates with you. So if we look at communication, we're looking at the difficulties in expressing both your needs and your wants, and then on top of this, being able to comprehend the message received from others. So for someone on the autism spectrum, this can lead to frustration and often isolation from all sides of the communication. And it can also mean that the young person with autism also misses really key messages and does not have the skills to be able to check in and clarify a social situational context with their peers or teachers. And also adding to this complexity are the many and varied non-verbal signals and signs that are constantly transmitting through communication. In our social interactions there, some individuals on the spectrum find it hard to share, take turns? Anyone similar to that with the young person they support? And this is especially depending on the interest area of either the items they're playing with or the topic that's of conversation. And so again, that can lead to isolation. And another, yep, we've got a couple there, the need to win. And another thing that comes up in socialisation is how young people's peers can be quite unpredictable in general. And this is often why sometimes we see a young person on the autism spectrum gravitate towards adults because they are that much more predictable, or towards younger children who have that less developed play skills. I'm sure there's a few people who either support young people on the spectrum or have their own children who would fall into that category as well. And we must also consider how complicated social games, for example, can be, like tip or handball. And we've got a really good example of this where the complexity of the rules often seen in games like this can change really quickly, depending on the group of children and how fast their communication can be. And we do have a short clip, which Rachel's getting ready for us. And the focus of this video is on a group of students and one father who are playing handball. And it highlights the range of different social and emotional skills that are being used by the students and the father, and the complexity of how it rolls out in just 1 to 3 minutes of the game. So I'll ask everyone just to turn their volumes up on their computer, and we'll be playing this short 1.5 minutes video.
Get Jones out! You can't get me out. Must be decent. Zach, you can't do anything to me. Yes, you can. Time grabs.
Oh, gone.
No. Yeah, you played grabs. It was grabs. Yeah, you played grabs. So you're over there. And no, you're standing.
I'm frightened now.
Oh no, you played it. Yeah, you're in there. You're out. Yeah. Alright, muscle my hand, muscle my hand, everybody mouth. That's me, you're out. Yep, Seb. I already said it first. Seb, you said Seb, me, you're out.
Get him out, everybody. Oh, all I did was serve.
And you got out. Oh, Minor. Oh, you played it. How did he get out? He doesn't know these rules. Oh, take it out. Oh, no, get out.
Why out? Did it go out though that line?
Yeah, out of it.
Okay.
So hand on that power thing. He's out. Oh, sorry, that's all right, Joe. You just go.
Okay, so I hope everyone could hear that, and even though it was so short, I mean, I couldn't really even follow keeping up with all those rules, let alone, you know, if a young person has challenges in any of these areas. So we can sort of see here and consider just how a minute of overloading on the playground with all of the different communication and social interactions going on could often be that final trigger for something going on in that young person's life. So just moving on to, yeah, Carmel had trouble keeping up too, me too. So in the column, in the row there, repetitive behaviours and restrictive interests. Individuals on the spectrum, as we talked about before, can often, you know, we see their play characterised by a focus on objects and or that specific interest area. And this can take the focus off the building that relationship with people, because that is a challenging area for them. And this can lead to that one-sided and repetitive conversation on the topic. So a few people copy that in. You might see, you know, a lot of you might have come across this in the playground or in the classroom as well. And like someone mentioned earlier, that is why that the young person on the spectrum will gravitate towards that older adult figure who has a bit more patience for that conversation topic or invest in a bit more time in it. So it can be challenging for their peers to stay engaged, and hence why they might move on to other friendships or other people. And in that instance, it can often lead to the individual on the spectrum being more isolated in where they're playing or how they're playing. This can again impact by being at risk to bullying behaviour, which I'm sure many have seen as well. And the understanding of the jokes is very challenging, and that links us back, as Jessica's put there, and Caitlin, about sarcasm. It links all through those characteristics and how, you know, in communication, it's that literal interpretation. And so, you know, those social cues and conversations can get lost. So in sensory processing, and thanks Rach for moving the arrow there, that's very helpful. Depending on our individual sensory sensitivities, and those of people on the spectrum can be even more greatly impacted. This area may see the young person on the spectrum's ability to be involved in certain play activities that involve this skill being less. And so especially when social settings are new or unpredictable, and I know someone mentioned there so much noise in the playground. So if there is a sensitivity in noise, then of course that person is going to avoid that. And an example could be running away from the crowded playground or the crowded shopping centre. And this is also an area where we can think about proprioception, which is one of the senses that we often don't realise involves a lot of the muscle and joints. And so difficulties in this sensitivity of the area may mean that the individual has challenges in their coordination or ball skills, and in turn impacting on social opportunities. So finally, I'll just touch on information processing. An example here is looking at how individuals on the spectrum have a difficulty around executive functioning. And this is where we develop skills and the ability to plan and organise. But when you have a challenge in this area or a difficulty in this area, it can impact on the ability to maintain friendships, what we have touched on as well. And that includes that real coordination and organisation of managing conflicts within friendships, and also managing busy social calendars and times and follow-up and all of those things that we just take for granted as having a friend. So in summary of our diverse characteristics, we can explore these characteristics of autism on an individual level, and we see that no two individuals are the same or have the same characteristics. And as we add to that the very complex layers of friendships for all people, then it appears that it isn't any wonder why socialising can be so confusing for many of our young people. And as we have said before, what is important is to keep the knowledge of yourself or your young child at home and at school at the forefront of your mind. And that's where we like to link it up to the Positive Partnership Planning Matrix, which is a great document that we use to document all of those characteristics and the diversity of autism. So I think we've got, I didn't really explain this tool, but down in the far left-hand corner, you'll see a little head icon. And what you can do is click on that, and you can use the hand up icon to let us know if you have used the matrix before. We would like to get a bit of an idea about how many people have used the matrix. I can see a couple of hands going up there. Thank you, everyone. This is a link to this matrix is on our website, and it's a great module that you can actually complete to learn how to utilise this tool to the best of your to your best for your child. And so we do have a link that we'll send following the webinar, but we can actually use the matrix to highlight the individual characteristics of someone on the autism spectrum and unpack these characteristics by looking, as Rachel's got there, our pointer. We explore the characteristics across the top and then link those to the impacts down the bottom. And then those impacts directly link into creating some really practical strategies along the bottom row. But I'll just take you back to the impact row, and this is often where we see instances, as discussed previously, of the individual on the spectrum becoming isolated, or peers around them becoming frustrated. And this can also impact on the instances of teasing and bullying occurring. And sometimes the young person's vulnerability in their social and communication can predispose them to being the victim. However, we sometimes also see the child on the spectrum that is the perpetrator unknowingly. And we also see that there might be a misinterpretation of the actions of others, where the individual on the spectrum is seen as being seeing the others as being a bully, when actually it might be due to some other sensitivity. So we just want to encourage that by constructing this visual story or map with your young person, we can start to identify what influences upon someone's ability to understand, make and maintain friendships, including how to support an individual through challenging situations such as bullying. We will share 2 examples of these completed matrices with a focus on friendship, and these will be for a primary and secondary student on the spectrum. So you'll get those after the webinar. But for now, we've actually just taken out the social interactions column from both of the matrices, which we'll share. And this can just let you know how this tool can be helpful. So as you see along the top there, I'll just read out the primary student example. So the individual has difficulty understanding the actions of their peers and often feels like he's being teased and that the actions are deliberate. For example, someone brushes against him. And the impact of this, in the second row down, is that he can feel sad or angry at the school when incidents occur, and this may also lead to being the target of bullying. And so we've linked closely these strategies to that impact by suggesting debrief following the instances with visual drawing to help him learn the difference between aggression and unintended jostling in the corridor. You can also set up a safe place with a favoured book to be used as a retreat if needed, and to identify those safe and unsafe areas for him in the school using a map. So just remember that many of the strategies that develop friendships can also develop other skills. And this includes supporting the young person on the spectrum, especially when they are vulnerable. Now I'm just going to take you to the next slide, which is where I will hand over to Rachel. Rachel's going to help dig a bit deeper into the strategies and think about the strategies that you're currently using, while giving some suggestions as well. So thanks, Rachel.
Thanks, Nat. Welcome everyone, and hello, good afternoon. And I thank Renee for starting us off so wonderfully and discussing some of the really important issues around making friends. So this second half of our webinar, we're going to be looking at some strategies. We really want to encourage you all to share in textbooks. Actually, you've got some great ideas and strategies that you're using. So I'd really like to hear from everybody and sharing, and hopefully that will mean that everyone walks away with maybe one more idea. So we'd like to start by having a look at some of these pictures and thinking if they jog anything that you've maybe tried. Perhaps you've tried the circle concept. Perhaps you've used video modelling. Maybe you've tried play dates or play dates. So just pop any ideas that you have tried and what you for them or what's working for you in the text box to start us off. That a couple of people are typing. Just while we're waiting for a few people to pop in the idea, we've got a great article called Tips Being a Friend. It's written by a group of primary school students, and often some strategies are sort of outside. So in case this group of 5th grade students came up with a game that everyone could play at recess, they share their tips. It's a really great article. also got another document we'll be sharing by email called Positive Partnerships Suggested Strategies. So lots of ideas coming your way. So I can see Caitlin, moving seat plans regularly, play-based learning, positive classes, how to be a good friend. That's right. So I'm guessing that's teaching those to all students. Oh, is my line all crackly? Oh, apologies. I seem to have full strength. I hope it's I hope it improves. I'm sorry about that. I'm not quite sure why that's happening. Anyway, I'll keep going. If it does become a real problem, we might have to flick back to Renee. But I'll keep going and see how we go.
Yeah, right. So it's breaking a little bit in and out for me. If you want to try moving where you are. Otherwise, I'm happy to take back over if it's not working.
All right, I might just move to the best part.
Can everyone comment in the text box if they're also having a bit of difficulty there, or if it's okay?
So we've got Leanne suggesting Lego character role play. Some people are saying it's better. Oh, it's okay now. Okay, well, keep going and please let me know if it does any worse. Okay, so some great ideas in there. Role playing is a really great idea, and so is video modelling is another great idea. Using social stories and social scripts is also very successful, especially when the social story can explain the benefits of using that particular social idea. Teaching explicit rules, even role-playing how to join in on a game is really important, sometimes very structured role play around certain scenarios. Teaching children to actually read social cues and how to start a game or join in a conversation. Some young people need skills broken down into really small steps. We can never assume that they know these things. Often children are unaware of those hidden social rules. So visual reminders and visual prompts are all great tools. So what we're going to look at now is a short clip of a young adult on the spectrum called Robin, and she discusses friendships and strategies that she's implemented in making and maintaining friends. So again, we'll ask you to turn up the sound. I'll put myself on mute and turn up the sound on your laptops or computers or iPads, and just have a look at whether there are any that you might try whilst watching this video.
Friendships can be quite difficult sometimes for people on the autism spectrum. Sometimes people find it difficult to make friends, but also sometimes people on the autism spectrum can find it difficult to maintain a friendship. So how do you make sure over a long period of time that you keep being friends with a person, that you spend time with them and they spend time with you, and that you both get a lot out of being friends with each other? Some problems that people might experience are things like being able to understand somebody else's perspective of a situation, so particularly when things go wrong or when you're trying to talk to somebody, knowing, for example, if they want to talk to you or if they're enjoying the conversation with you. In terms of maintaining friendships, I think it's very important that you do learn how to maintain friendships, because I think that's a different skill set to making friends. There are some people on the autism spectrum who are happy in their own company and don't want to make friends. So one of those reasons might be because they've experienced a lot of bullying and rejection and actually need to have some support and working on some social skills to be able to use to make friends. And really it's not the friendships that are the problem, it's more the rejection and the negative experiences that they've had. It's totally fine if a young person doesn't want to make friends, but I think you need to find out why, and also you still need to work on teamwork and being able to work with other people. Firstly, if you don't want to make friends, that's totally fine. Think about why you don't want to make friends. If it's that you've been bullied, then maybe it's just about looking for different places to make friends. Tip number 2 is to go to groups or clubs that are around your special interests. So that might be a really good place to make friends. Tip number 3 is if you're comfortable, to explain to people that you're on the autism spectrum. There shouldn't be any shame in it. You might not do it the first time you meet somebody. Make sure you trust that person first, and if you're unsure, then ask somebody who you trust, so your parents or a teacher. Tip number 4, Jennifer Cook O'Toole has written lots of very useful books. She's got a series called Asper Kids, published by Jessica Kingsley Publishers. Tip number 5 is Comic Strip Conversations by Carol Gray and Tony Atwood, and Social Stories, which is also by Carol Gray.
Okay. Did anyone hear any great ideas that Robin talked about, or hear of anything they hadn't heard of before? Maybe just pop a couple of things or notes or phrases into the text box. Perhaps you hadn't heard of Carol Gray, and she's quite famous for her social stories and social scripts. Was there anything there, any comments that Robin made that might be helpful for you? Quite a few people just jotting down, typing in now. I'm hoping you can all hear me better whilst we were watching that. I've moved to a better spot in my office, so I'm really hoping that the sound is better quality now. Oh, good. It's sounding like everybody is thinking it's better. So it's still important to work on teamwork, absolutely. Bullying, yes, bullying's a big issue. Comic strip conversations, yes. Deanna, they're really great tools, especially for teenagers. And yes, MM has suggested needing scaffolding at school. Really important to work together with parents and families. We'll talk about that in a moment. Yes, and important. That's a really great point, Caitlin, that it's important to communicate effectively, even if the person does not want to make friends. This is actually a really important thing for us all to be aware of with children. They may say that they're not interested in being friends, or they may say that they don't need friends, but this could just be a way of protecting themselves. There's been some research with older adults on the spectrum, and they've often said that their school years were quite lonely, and that they really did want to make friends, that they just didn't know how. So really important for us to be aware of that. So lots of great comments there. That's fantastic. Thank you, everyone. It's a great clip, and she gives some fantastic ideas. So we'll move on now. We did mention just now about the importance of working in partnership with school. So parents and teachers both need to be working together to support our young people socially and emotionally. Families need to have a really strong partnership with their schools, and vice versa, and this will create a supportive environment that helps our young people feel confident both socially and emotionally in school. Again, we'll be sharing another list of strategies with you via email just post this webinar. But now it's an opportunity for you to type in any ideas or strategies and ways that you've possibly worked with your parents, or if you're a parent, ways that you've worked with teachers in the past, current ideas that you use to support your students, and how have you worked well together. So in other words, answering the question, what have I done to work in partnership with parents or teachers to support our young people socially and emotionally? So just popping some ideas in the text box. one idea whilst people are typing is to work for parents to work with teachers and vice versa to develop visual cue cards and materials together. Often what works at home can work well at school and vice versa. So Leanne has said creating profiles of children's strengths are really important to know children's strengths as well as weaknesses. Linda has suggested letting the school know what works at home, and that's a really important thing, and vice versa. We can't assume that teachers know all of the strategies that are working well, and so sharing that with your teachers is really important, and vice versa. If a teacher finds something's working well at school, to make sure that you share that with your parents. Communication book Michelle has used, lots of ideas coming through. Yeah, communication is definitely the key, Caitlin. I couldn't agree more. Assisting with school games group, yes, that's a great idea. A picnic concept, eating lunches, that's a really nice idea. Thank you for sharing. And Rakula has suggested that her preschool has taken up some of the same visuals. Excellent. Fantastic. And that just really provides some consistency for the child, doesn't it, to allow them to know exactly what those visuals mean at home and at school. Great ideas. Thank you all so much. School groups that suit the children with ASD. Secret Agent Society is a great game. I know a lot of schools and parents have taken that on board. So thank you all for sharing. That's fantastic. We've mentioned quite a lot of the ones that we have in our document, which we'll be emailing to you. Like I said, it's titled, How Can We Work in Partnership with Our Schools? So we've mentioned some of those already. So developing visual materials together, teaching students rules of social interaction, really explicitly teaching the whole class different social rules, and that therefore is benefiting all students. Role playing, talking to the school about organising a buddy program is a great idea. This may be a buddy that's older or more mature, a friend, helping them to join in at playtime. Helping your young person, we've talked about lunch clubs, access clubs, activities, they're great ideas. It's also really important for adults, parents and school staff to model appropriate behaviour so that young people are aware of what is expected in different social situations. So as we were saying before, I think it's really important as adults, and we forget this sometimes, to be really mindful of when we tease or joke or use sarcasm with individuals on the spectrum, and especially making sure that we're also aware of the difference between that and distinguishing behaviours that are socially acceptable versus bullying. So making sure our children on the spectrum are aware of what really constitutes bullying. So just summing up, when talking about partnerships, when schools really embrace diversity and they have that open arms approach in all forms, it creates an environment which is accepting of difference, provides a wonderful platform for students on the spectrum to develop and thrive socially and emotionally. It won't immediately be a solution for every social interaction, but you should feel confident that the additional supports and strategies are encouraging to be put in place and aren't being undermined by a school culture in contradiction with what you're trying to achieve. So it's really all about working together. In fact, they should complement what the school is striving to achieve for every student. We actually have a wonderful resource called Jambi, the Different Kookaburra. It's a storybook developed in conjunction with a community in Victoria that sends many messages about difference and acceptance. You can access this storybook as a free app on your iPads or tablets with interactive games. Our website also showcases this book. We're soon going to have an ebook reader version online. We've also got a live reading of the book that demonstrates how to use a sensory bag, which has key messages. It's a great whole class tool to teach about difference and acceptance. So we're going to actually share the link to our Jambi recording again in an email. The name of the book is actually Jambi, and it's spelled D-J-R-M-B-I-M-M. Was asking what the resource is called. So like I said, we will actually share with you the link to Jambi following this webinar. Renee's just popped the name in there for you. So where do we go from here? Asking the question, what are some good resources and books to use? There are so many out there, but what are some of the ones that come with recommendations from different people, and then what tools do I start with? Here are a few of the books which we share during our workshops. We've had a book list in the past, and we've often shared these also on our display tables. So we've shared some of the titles. So please pop in the text box if anyone has actually used these and if they've found them useful. We have certainly found that these come recommended. They're useful in exploring and teaching a variety of skills, including friendship and social skills. So please also feel free to share titles of any other books that you may have found useful in your journey with autism. We have a book list which we will send to you as well, Making Friends reading list. Here are a few more, and thank you, Rakul, the Social Flexible You series. We've got Taking Care of Myself here. Luke Jackson's Freaks, Geeks and Asperger's Syndrome is a fantastic book for teenagers. Really great in talking about some of those hidden social cues. He makes it's a good read, a good laugh around those sorts of things. Max and Barnaby, a book about joining in the playground. Thank you, Karen. Great to see you all sharing different books. Here are a few more. Bullying in Schools, Words Will Really Hurt Me, a few others here. We forgot to mention as well that you'll receive a PDF version of all of these slides. So if you didn't get a chance to take note of any of the books again, or any of the slides, really the information on the slides will actually be sent to you along with the book list. A few more here. Some of you may have seen some. This book here, The Hidden Curriculum, Practical Solutions for Understanding Unstated Rules in Social Situations. We're surrounded in daily life by unstated rules and customs that can make the world a confusing place for people on the spectrum. So to help individuals understand and deal with this ever-elusive hidden curriculum, this is a book that offers practical suggestions and advice for how teachers, parents and other professionals can teach these subtle cues. So a fantastic book. Leanne is asking if there are any helpful apps. We're about to show you some websites, but please feel free to share if anyone does have any apps that they've used. Again, share in the textbook. We can always hear about more and different resources. This is a great book too, the Social Skills Picture Book. Actually, there's two of them. These two picture books, one is for high school. They actually appeal to the visual strengths of students on the spectrum, coloured photos of students demonstrating a variety of social skills in the correct and also in the incorrect way. So on the next slide, on the next few slides, we've got a few pages copied from this book just so that you can see. So the skills depicted here are meant to be read, role-played and corrected when necessary, and role-played some more, and finally to be practiced by the student in real-life social situations. So these particular pages are from the High School and Beyond book, just to give you a bit of a snapshot. You can see here there's the right way and the wrong way, and they have the pages have thought bubbles to show what people are thinking during these interactions. And obviously for children, they're not always what they hoped for. So this book is really practical and engaging and down to earth. It's very real. It's a valuable tool for teens to help them navigate that often very mysterious rules of social conduct in everyday situations. So we highly recommend this one. Visual tools and strategies, we've already mentioned how useful these can be. You've heard it many times through the webinar, and you may have different experiences of your understanding and uses of visual supports and strategies. They can assist the teaching of friendship, emotional and social skills. They can also assist consolidation of knowledge and skills and increase a child's independence so that hopefully one day they may not even need them. So some of the examples here are social stories, the Circles program, and comic strip conversations, which was mentioned before too. While the strategies may look and appear the same, there's differences depending on the age of your individual and the diversity of the situation. We've got a tip sheet on social stories and visual supports on our website. We'll also share with you, again, via email post this webinar, 2 examples of a social script. One is a primary school example and one is secondary. We've also got another tool which we'll send you called the Playdate Sandwich. And it's an article that highlights the careful planning and layering of elements that go into a successful play date and how it takes the form of a visually structured play date. So some great tips and tools coming your way. You'll be inundated with lots of information following this webinar, but we really like to hear from you as well. So I know lots of people have been writing in the text box. Just to let you know, if you missed something somebody said or a tip or perhaps a resource someone's mentioned, you can scroll back using your little bar on the side of your text window so that you can, and we'll leave the webinar open for a few minutes following the end of the webinar so that you have time to scroll back and jot down anything that you might see or you might have missed. Here are some more additional visual strategies. There's hassle log, the social autopsy. This is a secondary example. Questions can be used via this tool to assist students to debrief about an incident once a student is calm and discuss what could have been done better if the incident was to occur again. On the right-hand side, you'll see hotspot card. This is an appropriate card for students that it teaches them how to use it, about the strategies and cool hints. They might even be able to practice their strategy with a small group. The cards are small enough that the child can carry them around in their pockets, so they're on hand to be used but not too obvious for other students. Here we've got a list of really useful websites, and I do know someone said about apps, so please feel free to write any apps that you might have around making friends or that you've used on your iPads or tablets that you'd like to share. But these are some really great websites, so starting with the Castle Collaborative for Academic, Social and Emotional Learning. They've identified 5 interrelated core competencies: social awareness, self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making and relationship skills. So there's lots of great information about these skills for students and supporting their learning outcomes and general life skills. The second one is the Expect Launchpad, a useful website for older students to prepare for the transition of out of school, with a tab dedicated to social life, including conversations, dating and social media. The third website there is the National Autistic Society. This is a fantastic UK organisation who offer a range of resources written for people on the spectrum as well as their families and schools. The link takes you to a helpful page that suggests strategies to young people on the spectrum to help them understand social skills. You can also access information on a range of topics here. CyberSmart website provides interactive learning activities, an online resource centre and CyberSmart parent blog and outreach program. That's very useful for all children, not just children on the spectrum. It's something that we need to all be aware of today. And the last one there is the National Safe Schools Framework, again really suitable for all children. It provides Australian schools with a vision and a set of guiding principles that assist assist school communities to develop positive and practical student safety. So really important for schools to be aware of. So somebody has shared an app there, the What Wonkidos app. Sounds very interesting, Leanne. I'll have to check it out. Haven't heard of that one. And Leanne's also asking if anyone out there might have any activities that develop joint attention. So please jot them down for her. There is also a range of useful programs that are already up and running within schools across Australia. These programs empower young people to develop resiliency, self-advocacy, social skills, self-knowledge and an understanding of others' point of view. Just let you know, we do have a couple of typos. Apologies for that. Kids Matter shouldn't have an S on the end there, and it actually should say McGrath material with a TH. So apologies for that. Reach Out supports teenagers in a range of issues and concerns. A new program specifically supports parents through these tough times with a range of strategies and resources. Kids Matter and Mind Matters program, great information on whole school approaches to support mental health and well-being. It's great resources including video clips around the importance of social and emotional learning and programs such as Heart Matters. Bounce Back, educators and psychologists who share a common goal to support children and adults to develop a stronger sense of well-being and to be more resilient, confident and successful. And Helen McGrath's material has programs for schools to support students on the spectrum. We've also got Secret Agent Society. Somebody actually mentioned that a little earlier. A great program that schools use as well as parents use, and it teaches students how to recognise emotion in themselves, to express feelings in appropriate ways, how to start, continue, and end conversations and play activities with others. It also teaches them how to tell the difference between friendly joking and mean teasing, and how to manage bullying, and how to cope with making mistakes, a really important concept, and how to handle new situations. If anyone knows of any other programs other than these that they'd like to share, please feel free to pop them in the text box. We obviously have a great website ourselves with lots of courses for parents and professionals, as well as fact sheets, one of which I mentioned before. There is a particular information module on making friends and bullying, as well as a range of other topics. We've also got a Making Friends app available from the App Store to download free on your iPhone, as well as an app around Jambi, the different kookaburra, and that's available on iPads. Our homepage, which you see here, is where parents and carers can register for upcoming workshops as well, on the right-hand side there. And we will share the state and territory flyers as well. So school staff must contact their sector leaders if they're interested in professional learning opportunities. So we'll email out the links to the Making Friends and Jambi app. Lastly, our Facebook page is a great resource, especially for asking questions. So if you felt you didn't get a question answered, because I know there were lots of people typing away, this is a great place to put out there and possibly get 7,000 responses to any questions or ideas or tools and resources, particularly around what have you tried? Are there any apps for making friends other than the Positive Partnerships app? That could be a good question to post on our Facebook page. There's lots of tips and information and conversations regarding supporting school-aged children on the spectrum on our Facebook page. We ensure that this page offers evidence-based resources around autism. So we encourage you to leave comments, photos, videos and links here. However, all posts are reviewed to remain constructive and positive. And finally, we'd really like you all to take a moment to complete our survey. It's completely anonymous and it will only take you 2 minutes. Our moderator will upload the link to the text box, which you just need to click on it and open in another browser. You can also even click on the link displayed on the slide on the screen and open it in another browser as well. Does anybody have, we've literally gotten to 5 o'clock already, so the hour has flown past, but if anyone has any final thoughts or questions that they'd like to pose, please pop them in the text box now. Renee has just popped our survey in for you to click on. And just to repeat, for anyone that might have missed it, we'll be sending you a copy of all of the slides covered today, as well as the tip sheets, strategy sheets, the book list, links to our apps, as well as links to all of the websites and all of the program websites that we covered. So I'm sure that once you receive your email, that you'll have a great range of tools and ideas for supporting your children to make friends and keep friends. Well, I'll take your lack of typing to mean that we've covered everything, which is really great. Thanks, Jessica. She's just reminded us that a friend does not have to be the same age as you. That is so true. And I'm exactly the same. I have older friends and younger friends. So we need to remember that for children as well. So I'd like to really thank you all, and on behalf of Renee and the Positive Partnerships team, thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Please do take the time to fill in our survey. We really want to continually improve what we do and know what we're doing well. So it's a really good opportunity for us to ensure that we have that continuous improvement. So please do take the time, and thank you all for joining us this afternoon, and we hope you have a wonderful evening. Going to leave the text box open for you to scroll through and back and see if you have missed anything that you'd like to jot down, especially some of the great ideas that you all shared. So thank you, everyone.